Shalom. What a treat to be able to learn Torah with you for a few minutes, hopefully every week. So Korach begins with a very familiar claim against Moshe. His claim, in essence, is a claim that we grew up with, growing up in America: all men are created equal. His exact words, the words of his rebellion, he says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Ki kol ha'ida kulam kedoshim, uv'tocham Adonai, u'madua tinasu al kahal Adonai. The entire nation is holy, not just you, Moshe. Why do you presume to take control, to dominate the entire nation when the entire nation is full of holiness? God is present not just in your tent, God is present in the Machane as a whole. If that's the case, what do we need you for, Moshe? Why are you a leader? Who gives you the right to dominate us? His concept that all men are created equal, and especially when it comes to Am Yisrael, that Kolam Kulam Kedoshim, is it true? Is it true that all men are created equal? On the one hand, it's obviously not true. I have beautiful arms, as you can see, but my arms, compared to the arms of Michael Phelps, are rather measly. It's crystal clear that Michael Phelps was born with the talent that can lead him to the Olympics in a way that, as hard as I try, and I try very hard. I try to swim in the shower every single day. It doesn't really work, but anyway, Michael Phelps has certain talents I don't have. And if you look around, everyone is different. Everyone has certain strengths, certain weaknesses. The idea that all men are created equal doesn't really bear out. But perhaps, on a deeper level, it is true. Hashem tells us at the beginning of the Torah, Hashem created every single human being, B'Tselem Elokim, that if there's one thing that matters, one thing that determines a person's self-worth, a person's value, it's the fact that they were created B'Tselem Elokim. And that's true across the board. It doesn't matter what else they had going for them. So is Korach's claim valid? Is it true? Ki kol ha'am kulam kedoshim. And if his claim is valid, could it be that he's correct? Could it be that the rebellion was actually founded on a valid basis, on a valid foundation? And if that's the case, so why did Moshe oppose it? So, first of all, it's important to point out that Korach's claim isn't just familiar to us. It must have felt very ironic to Moshe Rabbeinu himself to hear Korach's claim, because it was the essence, what Korach said to him, Ki kol ha'am kulam kedoshim, is the essence of the way Moshe thought about his role as a leader the entire time. You rewind back to Parshat Korach, right? Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Chavtet, you have your Chumash in front of you. So we remember that Moshe Rabbeinu was having a rough time leading Am Yisrael, and he says to Hashem, I can't do it on my own, please send me help. And Hashem agrees, and he tells Moshe, choose 70 zikenim, and they will share in your nevuah, they will participate in the prophecy with you, and they'll be there with you as leaders. And the 70 zikenim are selected, and they have nevuah, and there are 2 zikenim who were not selected. Those 2 zikenim, Eldad and Medad, they tap into the nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu without permission. They practice prophecy without a license. And they also have nevuah. And Yoshua finds out, and Yoshua's response is automatic and it's harsh. He says, Adoni Klaim, arrest them. They're tapping into your prophecy, you're tapping into your nevuah without permission. How dare they? And Moshe's response, Umi yiten kol am Adonai nevi'im, ki yiten Adonai rucho alehem. He says, Yoshua, are you kidding? Arrest them for having nevuah? This is my dream. I wish the entire nation, not just 72, I wish the entire nation of Am Yisrael were prophets. They could directly connect to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. They wouldn't need me to be the intermediary. That's my dream. That's my fantasy. Of course I'm not going to stop them. The more the merrier. Moshe Rabbeinu's approach the entire way through, from beginning to end, has been hand off power, hand off spiritual authority, hand off spiritual opportunities to come in contact with the Kadosh Baruch Hu directly without me being an intermediary. That's Moshe Rabbeinu's whole agenda the entire way through. In which case, it must have been very, very hard for Tir Korach base his entire rebellion on the principles that Moshe Rabbeinu himself has held fast to his entire time as the leader of Am Yisrael. And indeed, if you look at Moshe Rabbeinu's response, when Korach stands there and says, what does Moshe do? Does he reject it? Does he argue? No. Vayishma Moshe vayipol al panav. Moshe Rabbeinu hears, and it doesn't mean he heard with his ears, he agrees. Moshe Rabbeinu agreed with the basis for Korach's rebellion. And he falls on his face with a certain kind of acceptance of Korach's approach. And yet we know that Korach is wrong. And we know that Moshe Rabbeinu himself opposed Korach. So where does this opposition come in? Where was Korach off? So this is really an internal struggle that Moshe Rabbeinu has had over years. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to him at the sneh, the burning bush, and he says, Moshe, you are the man to lead Am Yisrael. Moshe says, are you kidding? Who am I? Why am I any better than anyone else? When he tries to rescue one of the Ivrim, the Avadim, from the other, right? When the Shnei Ivrim are fighting, the two slaves are fighting against each other. So he comes and he tries to stop them. And he says, who appointed you a judge upon us? And he's like, oh, you're right. Who does give me the right to stop you? Who does give me the right to tell you what to do? And his response, he runs away. He gives up the role of leader. Korach's rebellion is so powerful because he puts into words an ambivalence that Moshe Rabbeinu has held within himself his entire time as a leader. And yet, Hashem chose Moshe. Much as Hashem chose Am Yisrael to have a certain role in the world, Hashem chose Moshe to have a certain role within Am Yisrael. And he can't deny that. And he can't fight against it. Hashem chose it. So in the end, there is a difference between one person and the next. The image of Korach is he comes before Moshe Rabbeinu with the talit shekulot chelet, an entirely blue talit, and he says, does this need tzitzit? When the entire talit is blue, is representative of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you don't need tzitzit anymore. In a room full of svarim, you don't need a mezuzah. A mezuzah is when a room is devoid of kedusha in itself, so you need, one particular scroll at the entrance. But when the entire room is permeated with kedusha, you don't need a scroll. You don't need tzitzit on a garment that has already got it right in its entirety. It's the exact same claim about Am Yisrael. If Am Yisrael is kadosh, we don't need a leader. The only problem is that it's true. Kedusha on one level means potential. It means that every single Jew, it doesn't matter their background, it doesn't matter the struggles they face, every single Jew has infinite potential for growth, infinite potential for coming close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But what Korach is doing is he is smoothing over the differences, the very real differences that still exist between one Jew and the next, not based on who Hashem made us, but rather what we have made of ourselves. And while Kol Ha'am Kulam Kedoshim, Moshe Rabbeinu has made himself something different from the person that Korach has turned himself into. And that's where the difference lies. And this leads us to the punishment of Korach. Because the punishment is very, very fascinating. Moshe Rabbeinu says, how are we going to know that Hashem chose me? This is how we're going to know. He says as follows. He says, B'zot teidum, we're now in Pasuk Chavchet. B'zot teidum ki Adonai shlachani lasot kol ha'masim ha'ela ki lo mi libi. This is how you'll know that God sent me and I didn't invent my role. Im kilmot kol ha'adam yimutu me'eleh, uvkudat kol ha'adam yipaker alehem, lo Adonai shlachani. If Korach dies the way every other human being dies, then it's crystal clear that God didn't send me. Korach's claim is that every human being is exactly on the same footing. It doesn't matter whether they're good or bad, whether they do something with their lives, whether they fail in accomplishing their potential. Every human being should be treated exactly the same. And that should be true in terms of the positives, and Moshe points out it should be true also in terms of the negatives. Rishaim shouldn't suffer. Rishaim shouldn't be punished. Moshe says, Korach, just as you are not correct in terms of who should take leadership and who merits to be the role model the rest of Am Yisrael follow, it's also true that you're not correct when it comes to the way people who veer off the path are treated. And for that reason, he says, in Briyat Yivra, the Kadosh Baruch Hu creates a whole new reality. Hashem will do a miracle. Hashem will abrogate the laws of nature in order to deal with you. It's because you have veered off the path in such a significant way that you deserve to be treated differently than the rest of us. It's almost like Korach is the negative tzitzit. He sticks out not as a leader, but rather as a Rasha. And through the events that happened to Korach and to the rest of Am Yisrael, Hashem steps in and shows it's true. Kol ha'olam, kol ha'am, kulam kedoshim. But Kedusha is just the starting point. Kedusha means we have infinite potential. But far more important than the potential we possess is the question of what do we do with it. And this is where Korach went wrong. Korach neglected to pay attention to the fact that we are here not to bask in the glory of our own potential, but rather to do something with it. And this is the path, the two paths, the path of Moshe and the path of Korach. Moshe took the path less traveled, the path of constantly facing the challenge of having potential and using it. And Korach took the path, the far more comfortable path, of pretending that because I have Kedusha, therefore I don't have to work. And the punishment of Korach was meant to show the world that no, it doesn't matter. We should all be zocheh to constantly realize the infinite potential that we and every other person we encounter possesses within them, and to actualize that potential to follow the path of Moshe Rabbeinu, to help other people follow the path of Moshe Rabbeinu, to constantly achieve and to accomplish and to strive to fulfill the potential that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. Have an amazing, amazing Shabbos. I miss you, and we'll be in touch next week.